One thing we don't want to do is play oppression Olympics or try to compare the two different causes. We don't think it's not a comparison at all. We've been fighting for 400 years against white supremacy and institutional racism in this country. Black Americans fought and ended slavery, which is the original capitalism that started here. We fought to end Jim Crow. We fought the lynching period. We fought for the right to vote, which gave some Palestinians who are Americans the right to vote, which gave Black Americans fight, has inspired every person's fight around the world, and have gave civil rights to every other ethnic group in this country, and has given them the right to vote, the right to go to school, the right to fair housing, even rights that we Black Americans don't have ourselves. So I think it's very disingenuous to ever try to compare a struggle to the Black Lives Matter movement or to what Black people have endured during slavery. We've been having our eyes cut out, having our ears cut out, having our toes cut out, and put in jars as souvenirs. So Black Americans, we've been going through this for 400 years, but we were never able to flee anywhere. We had to stick here and fight it out. And that's what you've seen in 2020. You've seen Black people and those in solidarity with us fight it out against the National Guard, fight it out against our governments, and make them have to make concessions and make them put killer cops in prison. So we just don't want to have to compare the two struggles. We know that our struggle has inspired the whole world, and the way we fought for freedom have inspired the whole world, and still does today. And we know our Palestinians were protesting George Floyd, and that's why we're protesting on behalf of George Floyd, and that's why we're protesting on their behalf today. We want solidarity based on the terms of equality, not just blind solidarity where Black people support anybody's causes, and then we remain the permanent underclass. So going forward, Black Americans are looking for solidarity based on the terms of equality. And so that's why we're concerned that President Joe Biden, who just left Minnesota today for a photo op, which pulled out about another 3,000 protesters yesterday to address him, he just gave $106 billion in aid for war in Ukraine and in Israel and for border security. So far, the reason why we're calling for, well, even Biden, because he sees what happens, he's just called for a pause in the fighting in Gaza. But that's after he's given $106 billion to this war effort. And after 10,000 people have been killed, including children on both sides. So what people were talking about, what was happening before this, like back in April, Netanyahu was polling at about 28%. And you know, when somebody starts polling under like 35, 39, 40, they can be kicked out of office. And I think the speaker before, Zach, I think the speaker earlier was talking about some of the things that Netanyahu is facing, and that's why it's good to have war. But we also here in America, and similar to what's going on in, but not similar because ours is way more drastic, but we have one of the racial wealth gap, which is substantial and is driven by public policy. In the United States, whites have $100 trillion worth of wealth, and Blacks have about $3 to $4 trillion worth of wealth. Not because Blacks are dumb, not because Blacks are stupid, not because Blacks are lazy, but because according to the Brookings Institute, according to the Federal Reserve and other organizations, because of public policy decisions. And public policy decisions are made by human beings, in many cases, white ones, right? So like Jim Crow was made by whites. The 3/5 of a human being, where there were slave owners on that. B. Taney being Chief Justice, that said Black people that was public policy, and that was made, and that was upheld in this Supreme Court here in the United States. So that when we talk the racial covenants There's a movie called Jim Crow of the North that talks about racial covenants, many which were here. And you look at mapping St. Paul that shows where the racial covenants are. Now they show the whole where these. My friend just bought a house recently, and it has a racial covenant on it. And it says you cannot sell this house to black people. And this is denied black people the opportunity to build wealth. So yesterday we had someone here, a reporter from Cuba, Liz. She's black, and I know we don't want to talk about race, but her parents, her grandparents were part of the revolution, and they were part of. So they were able to talk about yesterday. The film was about. We should try to get her on here one day. Biden's policy in Cuba, and how the sanctions are hurting Cuba, and how that's impacting Cuba. But she said even we have free health care, we have free education, but then the blacks are still impacted differently because of the legacy of slavery. And then that was, for me to hear her say that, but she has an accent that's like Espanol, but I could still understand what she was talking about. So we do understand class. There is a class issue, but there still is a race issue. And even in Palestine, there are Afro-Palestinians who helped some came from Nigeria, some came to from parts of Africa in the 30s, and they fought with the Palestinians against Israel to get which ended up becoming, or the Ottoman Palestine, which ended up becoming Israel. But I just want to say that to say this: we are here in solidarity to cause for a ceasefire, and we are also calling for the Israeli people to rise up against Benjamin Netanyahu and throw him out of office, and or have him resign effective immediately. And we think that's the right thing for him to do right away. His approval ratings are low, and we think that's why that's another part of why all this is happening. Thank
you. Do you also think that Biden should resign?
Well, I personally don't think Biden should have ever became president. And so, again, and that's going back to he's just given 106. We think that we have this huge, massive racial wealth gap, but yet we're giving money in Ukraine. We're giving money to Israel to fight endless wars, and we think we got people living in poverty right here. We have inflation happening right here. Sometimes we don't have Similac on our shelves here in the United States for the babies. So if we can't take care of our own, we don't think that we should be causing wars abroad. So definitely, I don't think that Biden should seek a second term at this point.